We have Eva Pilgrim now with the latest on the legal battle between Blake Lively and Justin Baldoni. Good morning, Eva.
Good morning, George. The never-ending legal battle between It Ends With Us co-stars Blake Lively and Justin Baldoni has a sort of resolution, kind of, about one thing: emotional distress. Lively withdrawing her emotional distress claim after Baldoni's legal team wanted access to her medical and therapy records. The judge very quick to say that since she has withdrawn these claims, that she cannot present evidence or make any claims of emotional distress when this all goes to trial in March of next year.
Against Justin Baldoni, she's moved to drop claims that he inflicted emotional distress. But before you think this could be a win for Team Justin,
it could be deemed a win for her side, because now she's not going to be forced to provide those medical records regarding her psychological status when you assert claims for emotional distress. The other side is entitled to have their own doctor examine you, and that can be pretty invasive. She has agreed to dismiss those claims without prejudice, which would give her the right to reassert them. And Baldoni is saying, whoa, wait a minute. They want it to be dismissed with prejudice, which means she can never bring it again.
Both sides must agree before the court will sign off, but today, the judge blocked Blake from offering any emotional distress evidence moving forward. Her sexual harassment and retaliation claims still stand.
The fact that they're dropping causes of action, that can be significant, but it doesn't necessarily mean either side is failing.
This year has been full of the highest highs and the lowest lows of my life.
Blake and Justin's trial is set for March 2026.
Courtroom is tense. The stakes couldn't be higher. A woman who once captivated the world with her poise, elegance, and charm now finds herself at the heart of a scandal that has stunned even the most seasoned courtroom veterans. Blake Lively, once the golden girl of Hollywood, finds herself trapped in a scandalous web of accusations, with her career, reputation, and future hanging in the balance. And it all begins on this fateful day in court. What was meant to be a typical pre-trial session, a routine day in the long and arduous road to justice.
Okay, so this all started when Lively filed a lawsuit last December alleging that Baldoni sexually harassed her on set and orchestrated a smear campaign against her. In January, Baldoni countersued Lively, Ryan Reynolds, and their publicist for $400 million, alleging the couple sought to steal and hijack his movie and defame and extort him.
Quickly spirals into chaos. Blake, accustomed to being in the spotlight, accustomed to being adored, is now forced to face the truth that has remained hidden for years. And when the bombshell drops, everything changes. As the former employee steps forward, a hush falls over the room. It's her turn to tell the truth, a truth that could destroy Blake's carefully curated image. This former employee, once a loyal worker in Blake's now defunct eco-friendly brand, begins to speak. And with every word, Blake's perfect world begins to crumble. The once promising eco brand that Blake had presented to the world as a beacon of sustainability and social responsibility is suddenly exposed for what it truly was: a facade, a publicity stunt to elevate Blake's status in Hollywood and present herself as the eco-friendly starlet. The brand, praised by critics and consumers alike, was not about saving the planet. It was about saving Blake Lively's image. Blake, who had been so confident just moments before, now appears rattled. Her usual composure shatters like glass. She tries to downplay it, claiming that she's just suffering from a migraine, but everyone in the room can see the truth. Her hands tremble as she lifts them to her face. She claims she has a migraine, trying to mask the panic that is rising inside her. But everyone can see it: the vulnerability, the fear, the realization that she has nowhere to hide, and the revelations only get worse. The former employee continues to speak, detailing Blake's involvement in every aspect of the business. It wasn't just a figurehead position. No, Blake had been the driving force behind the brand's strategy, branding, and operations. She had her hands all over everything: the ethical promises, the sustainability initiatives. None of it was real. It was a marketing strategy designed to elevate Blake Lively, nothing more. The lies that had been told to the public were now being exposed for what they were. Blake's eco-friendly brand, celebrated for its promises of sustainability and integrity.
So could she refile the emotional distress claims later? Well, the judge left that up to the two sides to sort out. But as we have seen, they haven't really been able to sort out too much on their own. Lively's lawyers releasing a statement about this latest decision from the judge saying Ms. Lively has offered to dismiss those claims because they are no longer necessary. Guys?
Okay, thanks very much. So is this a victory for Baldoni?
Small victory for him. I mean, basically, Lively wanted it both ways, right? She wanted to say, I don't want to have to turn over my medical records, and I want to be able to potentially file these charges again later. The judge is in effect saying you won't be able to file them again. There's an opening, a potential opening, but in effect saying you can't do it. And that in and of itself is a small loss for her, but it doesn't really affect the large case here.
What are the chances this case goes to trial?
Very high. I don't see how they avoid trial. I mean, people don't believe it, but I don't see how they get out of this at this point. They're suing each other, right? Who's going to drop the case? There's no way he's going to drop it considering where he is right now, right? And so is she going to settle for a lot of money? No way. So I think this becomes like Johnny Depp and Amber Heard. One of these cases people said, oh, there's no way it'll actually go to trial. And then it actually goes to trial. So I'm betting on this case going to trial.
And I'm betting that we will be covering it extensively.
We will. Yeah.
Dan Abrams.
Safe bet.
Thank you so much for being a part of our coverage.
Was a sham. The brand wasn't about saving the environment. It was about saving Blake's public image, about keeping her on top of the Hollywood elite. The former employee reveals how Blake had manipulated every decision, from micromanaging operations to ensuring that every move she made was calculated to boost her own reputation. The once visionary eco project was nothing but a money-making machine built to serve one purpose: Blake Lively's fame and fortune. What had appeared to be a noble cause was now revealed as a scheme to manipulate public perception, to cement her position as Hollywood's green starlet. But it doesn't. Stop there. The testimony continues, growing darker with each passing minute. Then, the most shocking revelation of all. Blake Lively, the woman who had graced the covers of magazines with elegance, was allegedly involved in a violent outburst, a moment of rage that no one expected. The former employee recounts how Blake, in the heat of an argument, allegedly threw a glass of wine at her. The glass shattered on impact, sending shards flying across the room. The employee was left bleeding, a wound so deep that it required stitches. Blake, the woman who was once known for her composure and poise, had crossed a line. She had not just thrown a glass of wine in a moment of frustration. No, this was deliberate. The act was violent. The injury caused was severe. And Blake's reaction? To storm out, leaving the employee bleeding and confused. A woman who had once been admired for her grace was now facing the consequences of a violent outburst. And then, it happens. Blake collapses in the courtroom, unable to bear the weight of the revelations. The woman who had built her career on charm, grace, and perfection is now brought to her knees. The collapse wasn't just a physical breakdown, it was the unraveling of everything she thought she could control. The carefully constructed image, the facade of grace, gone in an instant. The collapse isn't just the breakdown of a woman under pressure. No, it's the breakdown of a public figure whose entire career has been built on a lie. And now, that lie is exposed. The world is watching as Blake Lively's empire crumbles, piece by piece. The media frenzy has erupted. The headlines scream Blake's name, but it's not the admiration she once received. No, now she is the subject of ridicule, the face of a scandal that threatens to ruin everything she's worked for. Social media explodes with hashtags, memes, and debates, each side drawing their own conclusions about Blake's actions. Some defend her, claiming this is all part of a smear campaign, while others call for accountability, urging the public to see Blake for what she truly is: a woman, willing to destroy everything for the sake of her image. Legal experts weigh in on the potential ramifications of the case. Blake's actions, if proven true, could lead to severe charges: assault, battery, and possibly attempted manslaughter. The incident with the wine glass could now be classified as an act of violence with intent, and the media is watching closely. If convicted, Blake's career may be over before it even has a chance to recover. The stakes are higher than ever.
This is how Brian Friedman and Justin Baldoni are going to win this case. You don't have to take all 20 of her allegations. Pick your top 4, right? And show. You don't have to take Baldoni's word on the birth scene. Listen to Adam Monsheim, who is telling you he was there. And by the way, here are the raw film outtakes from the whole thing, where you can see She is wearing black shorts. She does not have just a thin piece of fabric separating her genitalia from everybody there. And let's sit and listen to her alleged multiple requests for a cover, which everyone blew her. I bet it's not going to be there.
The public's perception of Blake Lively is shifting. The once adored starlet, the symbol of elegance and poise, is now a woman under scrutiny. Some see her outburst as a rare, isolated incident, something born out of the pressures of fame. But as more revelations come to light, a troubling pattern begins to emerge. The wine-throwing incident wasn't just a fluke. It's part of a larger, more dangerous pattern of emotional volatility and manipulation. People are starting to question the woman they once idolized. Behind the scenes, Blake is struggling. Those close to her report that she's become withdrawn, isolated from the world as the pressure mounts. The woman who once exuded confidence is now a shell of herself. She's lost sleep, neglected her health, and retreated from the public eye, trying to deal with the overwhelming fallout of her actions. The public's affection for her is gone, replaced by suspicion and doubt. And Blake doesn't know how to fix it. Blake's legal team is working overtime to salvage what's left of her reputation. They argue that the violent outburst was a mistake, a moment of frustration that got out of hand. They claim it wasn't intentional, that it was an accident, not an act of violence. But with each passing day, as more details emerge, the case against Blake grows stronger. The public, once enamored with her, is now questioning everything she's ever done. Blake's legal team faces a daunting task. They're doing everything they can to downplay the severity of the situation. The narrative they're pushing is that Blake's actions were out of character. The wine-throwing incident, they argue, was simply a moment of stress, an accident fueled by the pressure of managing a business. They'll insist that Blake never intended to harm anyone and that the situation was blown out of proportion. But with each new piece of testimony, with each new revelation, it becomes harder and harder to believe. The truth is becoming clearer. With every passing day, Blake's outburst wasn't just a mistake. It was a deliberate act of violence, one that left a permanent scar, not only on her employee, but on her reputation. Behind the scenes, Hollywood is beginning to distance itself from Blake. Major production companies, once eager to work with her, are now reconsidering their future collaborations. The fear is palpable. No one wants to associate with someone whose career is on the brink of collapse. Blake, once the golden girl of Hollywood, is now seen as a liability, a potential stain on anyone's reputation who dares to align with her. Blake Lively's public image, once so carefully cultivated, is crumbling before the eyes of the world. The brand she spent years building, an image of grace, elegance, and kindness, has been shattered. And now, her darkest secrets are coming to light. The brand she worked so hard to protect was never about sustainability. It was about preserving her image. Her empire, built on lies, is falling apart, and with it, the woman who thought she could control everything. Blake is retreating further into herself. She's no longer the confident, charming starlet she once was. She's struggling to hold onto whatever remains of her career, her reputation, and her identity. The weight of the accusations is more than she can bear. The public is turning against her, and even her closest friends and colleagues are questioning whether they can continue to support her. The legal proceedings continue, and the world watches with bated breath. What will become of Blake Lively? Will she be able to salvage her career, or is this the beginning of the end? The courtroom drama is far from over. The media frenzy rages on. And as the case unfolds, the stakes get higher, and the consequences of Blake's actions become clearer. The road ahead is uncertain, but one thing is for sure. Blake Lively's life will never be the same again. The media's eyes are now fixed on her, and the public has turned its back. What started as a moment of crisis has become a battle for Blake's very identity. The future is uncertain. The damage has been done. And now Blake must face the consequences of the life she's built, the lies she's told, and the people she's hurt. Could this be the end of Blake Lively's Hollywood career, or will she rise from the ashes? Only time will tell, but as the trial continues, one thing is clear: her story is far from over.